guys.
Well,
Yeah,
hello.
hey, indeed.
How's it going?
Yeah.
Well, it's been a tumultuous time.
Been a tumultuous time, and we mentioned this a little bit in the intro, but we'll go into a little more detail now. I think this being Uncle Mark, who is I and him, I've been having some. I've been tired, and and
Just a little sleepy.
little sleepy, and I had this major work-life change where I've had to came to Canada, which is technically a closed country. I had to go through all this shit. I had to be quarantined completely alone in a hotel room. I couldn't even leave for 2 weeks. And now I'm at work trying to make a movie, and the province is on lockdown, and it's really, really it's a stressful time. And also the boulder. Every movie is a boulder. You got to push up a hill to get it done. And this boulder is a particularly big boulder on a particularly steep hill. So I'm looking at probably working 7 days a week for the next while. And so I kind of hit a wall, and I had to let these guys know, and I probably did it a little abruptly, let these guys know that I need a break. I need some time. And so we've been talking about that. Right, fellas?
Yeah, and it's not just you.
Yeah.
I mean, we all lived through this last year, and it has been really hard on me too.
Well, and I think when Uncle Mark brought it up to us, both of us kind of had initially it was kind of a shocking moment of like, oh God, what are we going to do here? And to also kind of realizing, like you're saying, Uncle Dan, this has been a tough year. In so many, for so many reasons, in so many ways. So I'm there with you that I kind of had that realization that's like, you know what, I could use a break too.
Yeah, it's just it's been really hard, and we love this show, and we love our audience. You guys are so great, and so we're all pretty. I won't speak for everybody. I'm pretty loath to let go of it. So what we've decided is we are taking the break. We are we're going to spend, we're going to give Mark some time to actually make the movie that he's making and not die.
Yeah.
So that would be good. It would be best for Mark not to die because we
not just yet
to that load.
Because
right.
My destiny is to die in the bull ring. It is not to die.
Right. That's right.
It is not to die
It's
sitting
an
in front of my
extravaganza.
microphone. Yes. And to be known as Mark the Magnificent in the bull ring.
Indeed. Perfect.
Yeah.
So I think 189 episodes is a great number for season 1 of our show.
Yeah.
And I think that it's time to take a little bit and take stock and give us all a bit of a breather, and then we'll see what season 2 looks like.
Well, and I think there's some some background because we've always tried to be extremely upfront with all of you about what's going on in our lives, and we've all of us have definitely delved into our own psychology quite a bit more than you probably wanted. But there's some other Uncle Dan and I talked a little bit about maybe just continuing on without Mark for a while. And while that would kind of, increase the workload on us, we both also had a realization, and I'm not speaking for you, Uncle Dan, just for me, that in the process of preparing the show every week, sometimes we get to have fun. And, shit like fortune cookies or the Holy Prepuce are
and it's just
silly
joyous.
and
it's just so much, and sometimes it's
funny.
just so much fun to do.
Yeah, but there are, subjects because of what we cover, it's a necessity, that are grim. And, BYU conversion therapy and the Anthill Kids and, Blood Atonement and the Mountain Meadows Massacre.
Yeah.
The Branch Davidians that, you spend hours and hours a week preparing for those segments. And, we want to do something as comprehensive and fun and engaging for you as we can. But man, sometimes that shit is grim.
Yeah.
And emotionally very taxing.
Yeah, it's a huge. A lot of people may not know. It differs by the sort of podcast you listen to. There are podcasts where people just shoot the shit, right, and that's fine if it's a good show. But that's not really what we do. There's a huge amount of preparation that goes into this, and we took it on voluntarily. We decided to do this. Nobody made us, and that's completely fine. But, there's just a lot of work. But then there is that emotional work that Doug is talking about. And, I was talking to Dan earlier, and I said, look, we're like crime scene investigators, right? Yeah. We're kind of seeing the aftermath of some terrible event. Oftentimes these are crimes, we're talking about crimes against children and totally innocent people just being terribly hurt by this, the sewer of belief that we kind of wade through every week. And as Doug said, I think we do a lot of processing of our own religious trauma on the show, which is both good and bad, right? Like I have become more enlightened about my own experiences by doing this work, but it has come at a cost as well.
And that cost is $650.
It's $650. And look, I was having some motivational issues that during the pandemic, during the lockdown, we're still in the pandemic, but when your Uncle Dan and me were stuck at home for basically a full year, and poor Doug had to try to go out in the world and keep his business going. I was having some real motivational problems. I think we all were. But then we would get these letters from you guys and these emails, and all of a sudden this wind would come back into our sails, and I'd be like, oh my God, Doug, look at this email. Oh my God, Dan, look what this person wrote in. And it was huge. And so, yes, we have, there is an emotional, for lack of a better word, spiritual cost to doing the work like this. But then once in a while, you guys come through with this huge amount of emotional lift for us. And it reminds us of why we got into it in the first place,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
I think that's the thing, is that this is, we're talking a lot about the emotional toll that this has taken on us. It's not like it's a bad thing.
No.
Like that was a price that we paid for something wonderful.
Yeah.
Which is our connection with you guys, and which is our ability to put out a show every week that people seem to enjoy, and we get to hear from them, and on rare occasions, and hopefully after the pandemic, we get to meet some of you.
Yeah.
And that's fantastic. So like this pays us. And also, you guys give us some of you give us your money, which is amazing too.
That was so helpful during this, insanely long period of unemployment and uncertainty. You really have no idea how helpful that was.
Yeah.
Materially and as an emotional support as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So this is not us saying like, you guys, you're just taking, and this has been insanely hard for us.
No.
It's just that right now, what we're saying is we genuinely do need to take a break, and that's going to be. I think it's going to be okay for everybody. I don't know. Some of you write into us if you're not going to be okay.
Yeah, we're still look. You can.
We'll find you another podcast.
You can still get a hold of us. You can still, everything's still going to work. The emails will still be there. The Twitter will still be there. All that stuff because it's the machinery that's going to kick back in when we get going again, right?
And if you're our patron, stick around on Patreon. We won't, obviously, since we're not putting out a show, you won't be charged anything. So there's, don't worry about that. Just everybody, hit subscribe on whatever thing that you're listening to us on, just so that when we come back, you're sure not to miss it, because believe me, we've been coasting for a while. We come back from a break, we're going to be good.
It's going to be hot like a pistol.
Yeah.
Go ahead. I was going to say,
go ahead. our back catalog is getting filled in on YouTube. So if you miss us, there's almost 500 segments up on there now. So there's plenty of bullshit from the past you can still enjoy. I love going to the back catalog and just clicking randomly on stuff and listening to old segments. It's a lot of fun. So podcasting is forever, guys. We're in the ether. Yeah. Go ahead.
Well, and I wanted to say too, just I know that for many of you, a surprising amount of you, the podcast has been very meaningful during this last year that's been so hard. Well, I know that because you've told us. We've gotten so many letters from people that said that this podcast had a lot of meaning for them during this hard time and that they look forward to it. And I did too. There was quite a period of time, especially at the beginning of quarantine, when it was so terrifying and there was so much uncertainty that this was, doing this podcast was for me like a lifeline. It gave me, I looked forward to it. It gave me something to think about that wasn't the pandemic. And because, every day it was Groundhog Day, sometimes it was the only way I knew that a week had ended.
Yeah. Right.
Was because we were doing the podcast. So, we pushed it through the pandemic as far as we could. And like Dan said, this was something we took on voluntarily and it's been a joy, but we need a break. We need to take a minute. And,
you know how if you've got like this huge task ahead of you, or you've got, you're running a race. We were talking about this like a marathon, and somehow you can run 26 miles, but once you cross that ribbon, you can't make it another 10 feet. And that's kind of, we're not out of the pandemic yet, and we're not out of all the stress yet, and all that shit. But it Trump is gone. There's 3, maybe 4 fucking vaccines, which is unbelievable. Sane people are getting them. Some sort of normalcy is on the horizon soon, I think. Mm-hmm. And I just feel like I'm looking back on how much tension and stress I just experienced by being alive in America during, the past 14, 15 months. And it was a lot more than I thought. Mm-hmm. And I feel like I've hit the ribbon at the marathon, and now I'm just figuring out how I'm going to get to my car. How am I going to get the next 15 feet? So
I'm with you. We've said this many times on the podcast that the most important part of the term post-traumatic stress is post. That you got to get through the crisis before you can truly start to process it. Yeah. And like you said, we're not out of the woods entirely, but there is hope on the horizon. All 3 of us are fully vaccinated.
Yeah.
And hopefully as many listeners as possible are in the same position.
Atheist comedy podcasting is essential work.
That's true.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's true.
We're frontline workers.
That's right.
We are so unbelievably lucky to be in the ears of frontline workers somehow. Yeah. People with educations that work at hospitals.
But it seems like at the very least the crisis is stabilizing, if not improving. And I finally have a little bit of bandwidth to start processing what we've all been through. And, and to that point, and regarding this podcast, I just kind of feel like, and this has all kind of come fairly suddenly, but I need some me time. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I need some time to not think about these issues and not think about kind of sometimes the worst things that people can do to each other, and take a break, take some time, fill in that space. But, this podcast has been such a pleasure and an honor to be a part of and to do, that, but we've done it without missing a week for 3.5 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you know what? This is an invitation for you guys too. Take a break, everybody. Let's all just take a break. We're doing it. Why don't you listeners at home just take a break? I don't know what you need a break from. I mean, you're getting one from us, but like, let's just do that. We'll call it the big break.
Yeah. It's funny, I didn't want to do this, and I was putting it off, and I was putting it off, and I was putting it off. And really my work circumstance kind of forced my hand, and I was just dreading having to tell these guys. And then the minute I did, I know I was really going to disappoint them and upset them, and but there was this huge sense of relief, It's like I just need some air, and I need to get through the next many weeks of my job intact.
Right.
And I just think as you guys were saying, it's after you got over the initial kind of what an asshole, you're both feeling like, you know what, I could use some air.
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, let's not beat a dead horse. Kids, write into us if you have any questions. We're still around. We still exist.
Yeah.
And we'll inform you. We'll try to be informative in terms of like when new plans arise. Follow the Twitter feed. Follow wherever you might follow us there, and we'll let you know.
Yeah, and we don't have any hard and fast date yet. We don't know exactly when things are going to kind of get normal enough to kind of come back, but you will obviously be the first to know.
Yeah,
It'll just so that you know though, it'll be a couple months at least, at bare minimum, a couple months, but probably a little more than that.
Yeah.
And we wanted to make sure, the reason we had this discussion here with you all today is we wanted to make sure you understood that this isn't, there's no other reason for this. There's no falling out. There's no
illness.
There's no illness.
Yeah.
We're all good. It's just been, a long, crazy, strange journey to get to this point. With all of you, and
these guys are just both jealous of my RV, and they're mad.
That's right.
That's what it is.
Uncle Dan needs to hit the road with his RV.
That's right.
Yeah,
that's right.
So, all right. Well, I guess we've talked it through, fellas.
Yes,
yeah.
Right.
And like Dan said, we're still here. If you have issues, complaints, or ideas, send them. We still want to hear from you guys, and then we'll have a treasure trove to play with in the future.
Yep.
All right. Love you, everybody.
Lots of love. Thank you for your understanding, and we appreciate every single one of you.
Yeah, I love you guys.